Of the big RGLs of the overnight session, you'll see at 1 o'clock here, we always get a decision being made. We look for the first rejection. It's the same as the cash market open. We look for the first rejection of the bullet train trade. And the first rejection we got on the Asia Pacific session was the sellers coming in, getting rejected off the lows at 86s, and giving you an idea about a buy trade into that 37.80 level. Everybody agree with that? That was the first rejection we got from the bullet train. So you're now thinking that the Asia Pacific session seems to quite like this for a buy trade. What happens next? Well, you can see what happened next. We went from 37.84, and all of a sudden we ended up ripping off to the upside here. And we ended up at the 32 price at the top edge. Now, bearing in mind you've just went from 84 to 32. You've done over $2,000 profit in your first 3 hours of the Asia Pacific session. When you can see the size of profits you can make from this as a storyline, you don't really need to trade an awful lot of times to make the big monies. The 1 o'clock bullet train is a brilliant train for most markets. The exception probably being predominantly things like bonds, but sometimes even bonds. But it's a great trade for gold, it's a great trade for oil, it's a great trade for equities. It's a great trade. So we obviously have a very, very keen eye on this, and we can see what happened to the equities. We had a target price of 32 in mind, which is the price that we obviously gave you in the tweets last night. And sure enough, the price at that level runs into a close. It doesn't really do much above that 34. And you can see that we've tested the 34, 32 level several times. And we've been able to rotate sales from those areas, getting jammed a little bit in this area just now. So it's kind of setting up a kind of a high, low, mid price area kind of area here. And that's just something that we're dealing with just now, is getting inside of those elements. The kind of trades that you've also got to watch in things like oil, you can see that oil took a beautiful buy side reversal off of the RGL last night. The RGL 103.80s, 103.90s. And you can see that that RGL was beautiful. Take a look for yourself. Is that not a brilliant piece of information for you guys to trade from? Is that not a brilliant piece of information, guys? 103.80s. Trades 105.20s. That's $1,400 of upside. And 103.80s ultimately trades 106.20s. That's another $2,400 of upside potential. And that's simply by trading RGLs. The trade that you should always be watching in the early session is the Russians. What do the Russians do with the oil price? Now, they start at 5 o'clock. So the first trade that I'm always watching on oil is 5 o'clock. It doesn't matter if you're in at 5 o'clock, but you always look back at 5 o'clock and you try and get an idea about what the Russians do from 5 o'clock onwards. So from 5 o'clock onwards, you can see that this is the 5 o'clock area here. You can see they've taken the market bid away from 5 o'clock here. And obviously, if the Russians are bullish oil, you should be looking to buy oil during that period. So obviously, when it comes back into the RGL here, this was one of my big buy trade opportunities here. Ran the stops, ran the liquidity, ran the level 2s. We made an absolute killing on that leg higher up here. Made an absolute killing on that. I've been selling some top edge oil, which was made a lot of money as well. But, you know, oil is a great market to rotate in because it is volatile enough to make a lot of cash. So I've been selling into some of these highs and I have made consistent cash. I mean, think about how much the poor guys that have managed to just go with the long side from above that ledge there. They've made a fraction of what I've made. Because how do you deal? Unless you're good at adding in and adding in and adding in, there's no way you can beat rotational business. So I've loved what's happened on oil. I'd love it more if it breaks south. I'd love it even more if it breaks south out of this area, but so far, no can do. And obviously, if we can get back down to 105.20s, we'd be in very, very good shape here, wouldn't we? If we could get back down into those areas there, we'd be in very good shape. So it's not happened yet. We'll just have to see if it does happen. It's been a good morning on oil, I'll tell you that much. We've been spread trading the inflation trade this morning. I've done one spread. I started at spread trading at 6 o'clock this morning, and we've had everyone's a winner. We've had $10,700 in profits on a one spread basis. The spread is 2 bonds by 1 oil, and it's just using what we showed you yesterday in class. The 2 spreads we're using is oil bonds. The ratio we're using is 2 bonds to 1 oil. And based on that, we have had $10,785 per spread profits since 6 o'clock this morning. And as I said, that's just simply using stochastics, guys. Simply using stochastics. And this is what we've got to try and understand, is that there's 1,000 ways to trade a market. There isn't just one. It's up to you which way suits your style of trading. For some of you, spread trading is a lot of hassle. You're never going to get your head around it. It seems like it's a lot of extra work. It's pressing one other button instead of one extra button, guys. It's pressing 2 buttons instead of 1. That's how much extra work it is to make $10,000 this morning. Spread trading inflation on a one spread basis. Unbelievable. Let's get through the numbers this morning, guys. In the overnight session, we had CPI numbers out of Japan coming in at 2.1%. We had retail sales numbers coming out in the UK month on month coming in at minus 0.5. Forecast was for minus 0.6, so a tiny improvement on that one. Still very negative. And out of Europe, German IFO business climate came in disappointing at 92.3. The forecast was for 92.8 and the prior was 93. So it's kind of holding up. You know, the IFO is a good survey. It's a good in-depth survey, and it does give a slightly better view of what's going on in some of these economies. The IFO and the German ZOO are both very, very good surveys to look at. And you can see that as far as holding up is concerned, you can see it's obviously been slipping and sliding its way down for the time being. But for the last 3 months or so, we've seen this uplift, and it is just holding on to the uplift. It's not exactly exploding upside, but it is holding on to that upside, the momentum. It's not losing it into the very next trade. Now, the challenge, of course, is what's going to be forecast for next month. Is it going to start forecasting a downside move? Remember, when they forecast an upside move, generally it goes higher than the upside. When they forecast a downside move, generally it goes lower than the downside. And when it doesn't, that's usually the turning point we're looking for. Well, they forecast a higher move here, and it came in slightly lower. So that's usually a turning point, and that's my biggest concern about the IFO just now, is that it's actually going to start dropping back out from a forecast. Anyway, in terms of this afternoon, not a lot to get too excited about for a Friday. We do have the University of Michigan consumer sentiment numbers at 3 o'clock, but other than that, there's not really much to get your teeth sunk into this afternoon. So possibly a relatively quiet day. Usual option expiries giving us a little bit of interest in terms of the markets. Bonds, as I said, have looked good. You know, we've obviously seen a few things. Let's take a look at the dollar. There's been a couple of easy money opportunities in the dollar this morning. Have a look for yourself, see what you think. Overall shape of this, you can see that we've got a couple of key levels that we should be wary of and pay attention to. You can see that the dollar levels are quite easy to mark off here. And you can see we've had a nice one-side rotation here from 6 o'clock. We had a sell-side rotation at 9:20, a buy-side rotation at 10 o'clock, and a possible top-line sell again coming in. And you can see that that little top-line sell, that's the new top-line sell, just making a little bit of money just now. The value was a wee bit bullish, but it wasn't that bullish. And you can see that just selling back into the dollar there, turning this rotation, it's been quite straightforward, hasn't it, when you think about it? If you can draw a straight line, you've been able to make money on the dollar. And that's pretty much as simple as it is. If you can draw a straight line, you can make money on the dollar. Because all we've done is draw a straight line from the overnight lows and bought it below it. And we've drawn a straight line from the highs and we've sold above it. It's kind of hard to do that, isn't it? Not really.